Have you ever wondered why we don't fully commit to our health? After all, health is the foundation of everything. In this episode, I'm going to share with you some different perspectives on why we don't fully commit to our health, and perhaps it may reveal something to you. Stay tuned to this week's episode 43 on the Reinventing Thyself podcast. We all have situations, experiences, and moments in our life when we know deep at our core we have to do something different. We have to pivot. And regardless of how big or small that pivot is, it requires us to change something in our life. And that change can feel really uncomfortable. However, it is that change that is creating something entirely new. And it is that newness that creates a very different way of life in one area or multiple areas of our life. What's this all about? It is all about reinventing thyself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I'd like to welcome you to Reinventing Thyself. I am so glad that you joined me today, because it is here that we'll move beyond our old self, our old identity, and that trailer of garbage from the past that we like to pull into the future, but really need to ditch that hitch. It is here that we'll move into that place of reinvention and embracing the newness of it all. Are you ready to step into reinventing thyself? Because guess what? It is never too late, and your time is now. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode 43 on the Reinventing Thyself podcast, where we are going to dive into that big, juicy topic of health and why we don't fully commit to our health. Now, before I do that, I want to make sure that you have added your name to the wait list for the Life Coaching Classroom, because health is one of those topics that we are going to talk about. It is a big piece on the reinvention wheel. Well, actually, every piece is equal on the reinvention wheel, but it is a piece that cannot be avoided for so many reasons. Not just the physical aspect of health, but there's other things that play into it as well. Now, if you go to www.lifecoachingclassroom.com, you can get some more details there, enter your information, because when the doors open and you become a founding member, you are going to be so glad that you did. And I'm not going to get into it on this episode because I want to dive into our topic. But I also want to talk about, this whole process of reinventing thyself. Like, what does that mean? And when we look at health, a lot of times we look at, we wait until our back is against the wall to change. And I love what Dr. Joe Dispenza always talks about. We can change in a state of pain and suffering, or we can change in a state of joy and inspiration. Why do we have to wait until our back is against the wall? Well, that leads into this topic of, why don't we fully commit to something? And when you start looking at this and at your health at a deeper level and really getting ultra honest with yourself about it, it's really important that you don't judge yourself, okay? Because judgment can take us right out of the game on a whole new level. So whatever comes up for you is neither good nor bad. Just know that it just is. And it's creating an awareness for you so that if you make that decision to pivot, to lean into the pivot, to reinvent yourself, to embrace the change and all the lessons that you learned, it's there for you. And if you choose not to, that's okay too. But ultimately, the choice is yours and the responsibility is yours. You can't go down this blame game, forever and ever. It doesn't work. So really getting ultra honest and fully commit to your health and looking why or why not you don't do that. So in this episode, I really want to cover just some different perspectives and to see if any of that rings true for you. And if it does, great. Grab a pen, grab paper, journal it out, talk about it, really allow yourself to feel whatever is coming up through that as well. So, and these are in no order whatsoever. There's no hierarchy to what I'm going to share with you in these perspectives. But again, it's important to see if something resonates with you. So one of the first things, and I kind of alluded to this already, is we don't fully commit because we procrastinate on it. And why do we procrastinate on it? Well, we procrastinate on it because, we have this belief that, oh, it's going to be hard. Oh, something is, I can do it later, or I'll start tomorrow. It's not the right time. And unfortunately, when we are in this state of procrastination around our health, many times it leads us to this place of putting our back against the wall. And we really have to decide, is that where we want to be? And many times when we look at our health, we also set these ginormous goals, and it doesn't even feel like it's in reach. So my thought around that is, yes, set a great big goal, but then break that goal down. Really look at the different pieces that have to go together to make it come to fruition. You can even think of it as a puzzle in a sense, right? The big goal is the puzzle, but all these pieces need to fit together. The other piece on that is, do you have to get all the pieces in at once? No, you don't. So sometimes when we do look at our health, we think we have to go like balls to the wall and we got to do it, exactly perfect. Well, sometimes that's challenging to make that action become a habit, like a unconscious habit that is just something that we do. So really be aware of that in terms of, my gosh, here's this big goal and I got to do all these things and I'm going to do them all at once. That could lead to overwhelm and could cause you to procrastinate even more. So look at that piece of procrastination and see what comes up for you. The second piece I want you to think about or explore is that your current health status, whatever you feel physically, whatever you look like physically, like it has become your identity. So if you have weight that you're trying to shed, or if you've just been, I want to drink more water, whatever it is, okay? Has it become your identity? And a lot of times we try to hide behind that identity, because who would you be if you weren't carrying around these extra pounds? Who would you be if you all of a sudden liked water, right? And it may sound really silly and really foolish, but you would be surprised how your unconscious mind takes all of that in. So I really want you to explore that whole piece of, is this your identity? Is this who you've become? And you've resorted to the fact that I'm not going to commit to my health because this is just who I am. It's an interesting perspective, but really look at that. How would others judge you or maybe even support you if you weren't who you are right now? Again, it's an interesting perspective to look at, but take a moment and dive in to, has my current situation become my identity? The third area, the third perspective to look at is your level of self-value. And when we look at self-value, a lot of times we have that wrapped in our beliefs and our feelings about it, which leads to, do we take action on it, and leads to any results that we get. So when we look at self-value, this is also connected to your identity, right? You have to challenge your beliefs and you have to challenge your feelings, because the current belief and the current feeling that you hold on to has just become normal for you. It has become a place where it's your comfort zone. And if you don't challenge it, how do you expect to fully commit to something that is in that realm of health? So if you have this belief of, I've never been able to stick to this lifestyle, or I've never been able to exercise, or I can't do this, do you see and do you feel on how you are resonating at such a low level of energy? And that's how you're going to show up. And so when you think of those feelings or those thoughts, what feelings are you having about it? And it all comes down to self-value. So again, and perhaps all of these are, connected in some way. But again, take a peek at that and see where your self-value, your self-worth lies in terms of your health. The last one that I have for you, or the second last one I should say, that I have for you is this piece of FOMO. And we don't commit to our health because we have a fear of missing out on something. We have a fear that we're going to miss out on not having a special treat, or we're going to miss out on not having, 4 more glasses of wine, or, 4 more beers, or whatever it is for you, right? We have this fear that we're going to miss out, that if we make a commitment to our health, it's this big sacrifice that we have to go through. And again, it's really important to look at your thoughts around that, your awareness around it, because where does that come from? Why do you have to have a fear of missing out if you are prioritizing your health? So perhaps you can't have 6 beers. What's wrong with 1 or 2? And why is that not enough for you? So really look at that piece of the fear of missing out, that place of having to sacrifice in some way, and see what shows up for you. Sometimes even just sitting in a space with that question of, why do I have a fear of missing out? Or what am I fearing in terms of missing out? And just sitting quietly and seeing what happens, and where your mind goes in all of that. And then the last one that I want to share with you is this whole challenge of the addiction to sugars, the addiction to junk foods, or foods that really energetically don't align with us. And so when we have those addictions, it's ultra challenging to want to commit to our health and fully commit to our health, right? Like perhaps we can do it short term and then all of a sudden we're right back at it again. Or perhaps we just, again, the fear of missing out. Oh, I just don't want to not be able to have whatever it is. Again, we have to look at, how does our health even show up in different areas of our life? And are those addictions something that is holding us back from what we truly desire? And so again, these perspectives are just that. They're just perspectives for you, but they're also there to create an awareness for you to see where exactly you are not fully committing to your health, and where you are standing in your own way, where you are blocking yourself, and where you are self-sabotaging yourself. Now, I really want to go a little bit deeper, and I shared this in one of these that I've already shared with you. So the different perspectives I shared with you about procrastination, your current situation has become your identity, your level of self-value, your fear of missing out, and this addiction. But I also want you to look at that whole sequence that I gave you when we were talking about beliefs. That, your belief plus your feeling will equal the action to get the result. If you don't have a belief and feeling that's aligned, that feels good to you, you're not going to take action. And so if you don't take action, are you going to get your result? No, absolutely not. Health is such an influencer on everything that we do. and it impacts our energetic levels. I'm not just saying that physically health, impacts things, because it absolutely does, but you also have, your social influencer, you have your emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, even your environment is impacted by your health and how you show up. And sometimes we just don't realize how bad we feel until we start feeling really, really good. So using that formula in any area I gave you today is really looking at your beliefs. What beliefs do you have around procrastination? What beliefs do you have around your current identity? What beliefs do you have around your level of self-value? And I believe that was the one I talked about a little bit more. What beliefs do you have around the fear of missing out? What beliefs do you have in terms of addiction? So health is one of those things that can create the biggest gap for us, because the gap is created by where we are to where we want to go. We have to get really clear on where we want to go. And all of this garbage and stuff comes up in the gap. However, the gap is also where your greatness lies. And by using that formula of looking at your beliefs and your feelings and your actions and your results, will move you into a state of being more committed, if not fully committed, to your health. So that is just some different perspectives for you to look at today. Also know that we will dive into health in the life coaching classroom. There's a different level of health in terms of, yes, you may want a physical transformation, but that physical transformation isn't possible if you're not energetically aligned, and your beliefs and your feelings and your actions and results all come together. And as I mentioned at the beginning, health is just one of those, that piece in the reinvention wheel. And we're going to dive into that. That's what the life coaching classroom is about as well. So if that is something that interests you, make sure you head on over to lifecoachingclassroom.com and you can get all the information there. But regardless, I would love to hear what you're taking away from this episode, what resonated with you, and perhaps it's, like in a day or two after you reflect on this, come on back and shoot me a message and let me know where you are at in terms of why is it that perhaps you don't fully commit to your health. And let's say you do, is there something that you could do to make it even better? Explore that. Don't lean out, lean in. And as always, my wish for you is that you move boldly and bravely through your new beginning and beyond. Until next time.
Well, what are you waiting for? Whether you've pivoted and are unsure, or you're on the verge of pivoting, there is no better time than now for you to begin. Want to know why? Because if it wasn't the right time, the pivot wouldn't have shown up. And to get you started, I've got 3 shortcuts to reinventing thyself. Just head on over to www.reinventingthyself.com and you can download it there. And don't forget to message me with the shortcut that resonates with you the most. One last thing, I know you and I are not the only ones that have leaned into the pivot. Be sure to share this with others so they can be supported too. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting me and sharing this message. Until next time.